I want to, first of all, I'm Howard Glazer. I'm president of Temple Bethel Brotherhood. I want to welcome Temple Bethel Brotherhood members, congregants, Temple staff. Thank you all for joining us tonight for this very important program. Just a quick word, I'm an avid pickleball player, and I'm at Shalom Park and at the JCC a lot. And every morning when I go in, the first person I see and say hello to is the security staff person who's manning the desk. And when I go past and go in and get involved playing, I do so with sort of a safer feeling in mind. I never really give it much thought, but I know that there's security in the building and that we're safer because of it. And so I think this is very apropos during times when we feel we need that little bit of extra security to have a program such as this. And again, I want to thank all of you for being with us. With that, I want to turn the program over to our very capable Brotherhood Program Committee co-chair and moderator for this evening, my good friend, Matt Zadinsky. Matt, you're muted, I think.
I know. Well, welcome again, everybody. And who would have thought on a Wednesday night, 2 weeks ago, with everything we've been through in the last 2 years, that we would feel less secure today than we did 2 weeks ago. The world is a crazy place, and we are blessed to have a great security chief at Temple Bethel and for the Temple Federation for the foundation. And he's going to spend some time talking about how we can improve our own feeling of security while on campus. The world has become crazy. It seems like we need to always be vigilant, walking the wall, looking inside and out for threats. And we got to be agile. We got to know what to do and how to move quickly. And then no matter how vigilant and agile we can be, we got to be resilient because things will happen. So I'd like to introduce Mike Philbeck. And Mike is the director of security, has years of experience working, coordinating with our local law enforcement and federal law enforcement. And Mike, I'm going to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, walk us through a little bit of your career from the Navy to the police, and then how you got to Shalom Park.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. My name is Michael Philbeck. I'm the Director of Safety and Security for the Foundation of Shalom Park, which encompasses, Temple Bethel, Temple Israel, JCC, et cetera. So I've got probably somewhere around 15 years of law enforcement, military experience, security experience. Started out early in my career, 18 years old, United States Marine Corps, got injured, and then left the Marines and went straight into law enforcement and worked as a police officer in Gaston County, and then did a short stint for Queens University Police Department here in Charlotte. So I was a police officer for about 4 years, and after that decided I wanted to get my degree, and law enforcement doesn't really work too well with that, rotating night shifts and stuff. So took a part-time security job while I was working on my college degree. And that part-time security job turned into full-time and site supervisor and administrative assistant, operations manager, and then eventually the district manager for that contract security company. And so during that time frame, I got 2 bachelor's degrees from Belmont Abbey, one in criminal justice, the other in applied psychology. Also have a master's degree in clinical counseling and psychology from Gardner-Webb University. And discovered Shalom Park through, they were actually one of our clients back in 2018, before I started at Shalom Park. We had we contracted with Shalom Park to provide security guards. And, my company had actually gotten bought out, and went in there to the executive director, Terry Beatty, and, gave her the letter from our company saying, hey, we've been bought out. There's gonna be changing uniforms and stuff. And, she asked me, well, what are your plans? I said, well, they don't need 2 district managers. So, I'm probably going to do something else and transition careers or, find another job. And so they offered me the position of Director of Safety and Security, and started on Rosh Hashanah, day one of 2018. So trial by fire, so to speak. I showed up in a suit and tie. It was 90-degree weather, and I was directing traffic at the corner of Jefferson and at the Jefferson Gate. So learned my lesson the hard way, and have been rolling ever since. So a little bit about my training and experience. I've done certified to do unarmed guard instruction, armed guard instruction, firearms instruction, CPR, first aid, AED. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in there as well, but so that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
That's good. Mike's going to make a presentation, and then during the presentation, he's going to cover a number of salient areas. The most important, I think, is what do you do when you see something? How do you say something? Who do you talk to? And what should you do? What kinds of things should you get involved in? And what kind of things should you just make a phone call and back away? During the course of his presentation, you may have some questions. If you do, put them in the chat to Howard Glazer, and we're going to have plenty of time, I think. We're going to go till about 8:30. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat to Howard Glazer. He and I will communicate via chat and text, and then we'll either unmute you or read the question and bring it out. But Mike's prepared to talk about all the coordinators that we work with across this city, across the county for security. So Mike, you want to go right to your presentation?
I can do that. So I've just got a few bullet points, and I want to kind of limit some of the technical information and things like that. That way we can get to the question and answers and some of the more meatier conversations and really engage with you all. So, but I wanted to start it out with kind of how we got here. And so you kind of got my background, but the background of Shalom Park and the security apparatus that we have here has been a very interesting journey. So at least since I've started, we have seen a drastic and dramatic rise in anti-Semitism, hate crimes, domestic violence, violent extremism, domestic terrorism, violent extremism, things like that. Tree of Life, Colleyville, most recently. There was even a shooting last weekend at a JCC, not Semitic related or anything like that. It just happened to be a fight that turned into a shooting situation. But there have been calls from international terrorist organizations to copycat attacks in the United States, promoting that domestic terrorism and violent extremism, cyber attacks, ransomware, things like that. So the overview of the security on Shalom Park has changed rapidly. When I first started at Shalom Park, we had 4 security guards, and it has changed dramatically. And we'll kind of talk about what our response has been here in just a second. So when I first started, we started to secure the nonprofit security grant funding, which kind of supplements the foundation of Shalom Park security funding, but it really pays for some of the bigger ticket items, right? The hardening of the facility. And so, we've done target hardening, which, it sounds fancy, but it's, security cameras, it's access control systems, gates, locks, things like that to make Shalom Park a harder target for bad guys. One of the biggest things that we've done has been to increase our security staff and the level of experience that we have in our security staff. And so part of this is to not only explain what we've done and some opportunities coming up, but to kind of give you all a peace of mind that we take security on Shalom Park and Temple Bethel very seriously. So when I first started 2018, we had 4 security guards. Most of them were 1099 employees. A couple of them had a decent amount of security experience. As of today, we have 14 security officers on payroll. We have no more 1099 employees, things like that, or not contract. And of the 14, the new 10 officers that we've hired have all retired from law enforcement. So overall, we have over 200 years of combined law enforcement experience just amongst our security guards. From a retired chief of police to homicide detectives, cold case detectives, patrol sergeants, things like that. So a vast experience of law enforcement, just within our own security department. We also use CMPD to supplement our security officers as well. Since 2018, we've done a dramatic rise in training. That was one of my big things that I came from. I personally believe in training. I think it's necessary to increase our awareness and our response to these threats. And we've developed a lot of federal, state, local, national partnerships that we've been working on and continue to work on and facilitate those relationships. So just to list a few of the partnerships that we do have on Shalom Park. We work closely with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, State Bureau of Investigation, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Department of Homeland Security, Charlotte Fire Department, Charlotte Emergency Management, North Carolina District Attorney's Office, and the United States Attorney's Office. And so those are our what I call our local resources. I meet with most of these individuals at least once a quarter. Some of them I meet with on a weekly basis, like CMPD, things like that. We have a great relationship with the local FBI office. I can't comment on just how wonderful that relationship is. And a lot of these events and stuff, they'll come by and drop off information for us, or they'll call me. The Colleyville situation, for example, I wasn't watching the news, was out doing something. And before I could even get the national alerts through some of our other partnerships, I had a lieutenant with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department's Intelligence Division call me and say, "Hey, this is going on in Texas. Just wanted to make you aware." And so that's the type of partnerships that we have. That they'll pick up the phone. The FBI will pick up the phone and call me before I can even get a chance to respond to anything. I don't have to reach out to them. So great partnerships there. We also partner with the Anti-Defamation League and the Secure Community Network. So the Secure Community Network, I'm going to talk about a little bit more in detail because they offer some training that I want to highlight, but they are the security arm of the Jewish Federation. So, Jewish federations are nationwide, and they're the security apparatus for that countrywide, right? So nationally. And they have regional directors and, training coordinators and this, that, and the other. But, I sit on a weekly national director call. And so they go through updates at a national level and break incidents down or provide us feedback on, certain things coming down the pipeline, intelligence updates, counterintelligence stuff, things to be aware of, what to look out for, if there's new, a rise in some new, violent extremist group, things like that. So great relationships there. And then they also offer a lot of training opportunities. And luckily enough, I've been able to participate in that and then have become a certified instructor through Secure Community Network to offer some of their training locally, right? Part of the issues with doing when it's a national organization and trying to do national training rollouts and things like that, a lot of people can be missed in those programs. And so being able to offer that locally, in-house, in person, and that one-on-one interaction with, our staff members and constituents and community members has been a real blessing, and will continue to be, something that we're going to take advantage of for as long as we can. So I mentioned that training was one of my big things, right? And I mentioned the SCN training, which we'll talk about here in just a second. So, but I wanted to let you know what we are doing on Shalom Park to better prepare our staff and hopefully better prepare you all as members of Temple Bethel and members of the Jewish community on Shalom Park. So for those of you who do not know, all staff have to go through security training. I developed this in 2018 when I first started. There have been some previous versions from past security directors, but reworked that process entirely. And I'm actually reworking it now as we speak. Natalie can attest to this, but Temple Bethel has been the first to go through my new revision of the security training, which is a lot more extensive than what it used to be. And so we kind of split it up into two parts. And so part 2 is next week. And then now that I've had the opportunity to do that for Temple Bethel, and the feedback that Natalie and her, the staff members at Temple Bethel had given me, and will give me next week when we do part 2, I can make those necessary tweaks, and then that will roll out live to the entirety of Shalom Park staff. And then they'll retake that training to provide refresher updates and things like that. We're also offering 2 additional training courses on Shalom Park for staff members, which is surviving a hostage event and verbal de-escalation and conflict resolution. And so what we're trying to do is provide our staff with as many resources as we possibly can to better protect themselves, and then pass that down to the constituents, right? Their members or the congregants, or kids, teachers, parents, whatever the case may be. Even though they may not be able to specifically take that training, there's a lot of information in there that can be passed on, right? Or we can utilize that training in different components, and hopefully better protect them and create a safer community. We do agency specific training. So any type of training that the agency just particularly wants, that they feel a concern for, we coordinate that directly. So again, Natalie, Temple Bethel have been phenomenal in reaching out and identifying some training that they want for their particular organization that is completely different than a lot of what everybody else is doing on the park, and honestly stuff that we've never looked at before, and stuff that we've never done, but things that we need to test, right, and develop that sense of safety and security. We do drills and tabletops and scenario exercises with staff members and organizations and things like that. So a lot of training on Shalom Park, and there will be more to come. Additional training that we offer, we do CPR, AED, and first aid. Primarily in the past, we've done this particularly just for the schools because it's a requirement for teachers and things like that. But we will begin rolling out some opportunities for the larger public and more staff members and things like that to sign up for and take. Stop the Bleed training, which is a national program on, basically heavy blood loss, after active shooter situations, things like that, how to apply a tourniquet, stuff like that. So we'll be offering those courses, and I'll mention this again when we talk about the Secure Community Network. They offer that course as well. So so moving into the SCNs training, they have 2 types of training that they've rolled out. Countering active threat training, which is a more or less an active shooter training, and then what they're calling Be Aware, an introduction to situational awareness. So those 2 training courses are going to be offered by me on Shalom Park to anybody who wants to attend. I was hoping that for this meeting I could unveil the dates that we were going to do this, and unfortunately I've had a couple hiccups in getting those dates scheduled, so I'm almost there. But those will be offered out live to anyone who wants to participate. So anybody they don't have to be affiliated with Shalom Park or Temple Bethel or any organization in particular. So when that information comes out, you are welcome to share that information and pass it along. So the more the merrier, the more people that we can reach, the safer we all become.
Mike, you think those trainings are going to be about an hour footprint so people can kind of think about that?
So those are fairly intensive training courses. So the countering active threat training is about a 2-hour course. And then the introduction to situational awareness is about an hour and a half. Luckily I can kind of condense it, and we could probably squeeze it into an hour, but would limit some of the participation and feedback or the interaction between the individuals taking it. So it's really just based on the needs. And so luckily, since I get to do it, I can kind of tailor it to whatever we need to do. So SCN also offers Stop the Bleed training. It's all done through Zoom. I think it's about a 2-hour class, if I'm not mistaken. And so some things that you can do, so we'll talk for a second about what this means for you, right? And so training in particular, right? I highly encourage to sign up, go to the SCN's website, and I have it here. So you screenshot, take a picture of it, do whatever you can. I'll leave it up for obviously a few minutes while I'm talking. Go to their website and you can register to get daily updates. So they send out a morning blast, with just general updates throughout the country, right? What's happening in Florida or Texas or even international updates. That way you're just aware of what's going on in the community, right? You can also sign up for training updates. And so when those updates become available, they'll push you a notification that, hey, we're offering countering active threat training offered on this date and this time. They had one coming up in March for Stop the Bleed. I found that out today, actually. So there's training that they offer, which can obviously be supplemental to what's offered on Shalom Park. Or if you can't attend something that I'm doing, or Temple Bethel might be doing, or anything like that, definitely sign up for that information. So the other steps that we can take when it comes to your safety on Shalom Park, we've talked about what staff does. We've talked about kind of what security does, and so we really need to take a few minutes to talk about what you can do. There is a excuse me. There's a concept that they talk about, safety versus security. And so security is my job, right? It is my job. It's security's job, the Foundation of Shalom Park Security. It's their job to make sure the building is secure, right? It's our job to make sure that we're responding to threats, that we're, practicing good target hardening, and that we're doing all the necessary steps to keep the building, the people inside the building, the community safe as best as we can. But to break it down even further, it's security runs towards the gunfire, right? Safety runs away from the gunpowder, the gunfire. And so that is where your responsibility kicks in. It is extremely important, especially in today's society, that we take safety extremely seriously. So, and this was part of our training that we did for Temple Bethel, and we broke it down. When a fire breaks out, right? First responders are coming in, firefighters are coming in. They are the security apparatus, right? They're running into the fire, they're putting out the fire. Your job as safety is to get out of the fire, right? To make sure that you're safe, to make sure that those are around you are safe, and to help others remain safe. And so we really want individuals to take a safety mindset, and that applies to your personal surroundings, no matter where you're at. If it's Temple Bethel, if it's the JCC, if it's Walmart, a gas station, just walking down the road and enjoying a nice walk with your dog. Always think safety, right? Things that we like to talk about in situational awareness. Where are your exits? Who's around me? Are there individuals here that I've never seen before? So if you're sitting in Temple, someone's coming in and you've never seen this person, and they've got that look about them, right? There's nothing particularly criminal about that, but there's something in your gut that is telling you, I need to keep an eye on this person. Listen to your gut instincts. 9 times out of 10, they are right. They are spot on. There's a reason we call them gut instincts. They are ingrained in our DNA. We may not be able to articulate why we're feeling this way, but it's our brain processing information and telling us we need to keep an eye on this person, or we need to move out of this area, or I need to be aware of what's going on here. And so listen to that gut instinct, right? Practice a good safety mindset, and get into that mindset. Part of the issues that we've always had, and I'm guilty of this as well, is that we go through these ups and downs, right? These dips in security and then spikes and elevations. And so, for example, 2018, Tree of Life, right? And security and all of our awareness to these situations just shot through the roof, right? What are we doing to protect ourselves? What are we doing to keep Shalom Park safe, et cetera, et cetera? And then, things kind of got to a peak, and then it slowly started to die off, and then COVID hit, right? And so now it was wearing masks and, washing our hands and hand sanitizers and all the other stuff that we got going on. And we kind of let security lapse, right? We forgot about it. The bad guys didn't forget about it. And so then it spikes up again, right? Colleyville. And then it dips back down. And now we've got Russia, right? And so it dips back down, and now we'll have another threat down the road. And so, the moral of the story is that we can't stop these situations from happening, but we can mitigate our losses. We can protect life. We can reduce the chances of those happening. So that preparedness, we can increase our response. We can increase our survival time. And that way we're buying ourselves enough time so those first responders can come in and do their security job, right? Eliminate that threat, and then end the threat totally. So go through these particular safety and security courses. If you have the opportunity, sign up for them. They're great. If not, go to YouTube, click on the Department of Homeland Security YouTube channel or the FBI's YouTube channel and watch a 5-minute video on run, hide, fight, right? It's the national model of what to do during an active shooter situation. It's 5 minutes, okay? 5 minutes of your time could save your life. And, more importantly, it develops that mindset that you need to think about these things, because it can happen, at a nightclub, right? It can happen at a school. It can happen at your temple. It can happen at a JCC. It doesn't matter where it's at. It can happen. And so security is not always going to be there immediately to respond to that situation. And so you have to be able to protect yourself and buy yourself enough time for that law enforcement officer to get there and eliminate that bad guy. One of the other big things that I really want to emphasize, and I cannot stress this enough, you'll notice that on every single slide, there was a phone number and a saying at the top, right? See something, say something. And more importantly, I want you to do something, okay? Contact security. If you are on Shalom Park, please contact security for anything, right? If it's, I had a little security update today with another program, and they asked, when should we call security? When that gut instinct is telling you to call security, I would rather you call security 100 times and it not be needed than you hesitate and you go, well, I don't really want to bother security, or I don't think this is necessary for me to call, and it actually is needed, and we could have stopped something, or we could have prevented a loss of life, or we could have mitigated some threat. And so I would rather you call us every single day, to report suspicious activity or criminal activity, or if you see something out of the norm, right? If you're off Shalom Park, obviously call 911. If it's an emergency, call 911. Even if you're on Shalom Park, call 911, right? It's important to go ahead and get those first responders started, right? Especially medical situations, things like that. They're having a heart attack or chest pains. We want to go ahead and get that process started, right? We want the fire trucks, we want the ambulances already en route. At the same time, call security as well. On Shalom Park, our security officers are already first responders, right? They're CPR, they're AED, they're first aid certified. If it's a security issue, right, or a law enforcement issue, we have security guards and we have law enforcement already on site. The average response time for first responders is 6 minutes. All right, so that's countrywide, right, nationwide. Depending on where you're at, it could be more, could be less. We've had incidents where CMP shows up, we call, and it's been a minute and a half. We've had incidents where it's been 10 minutes since they've arrived. And so it just depends on the volume and what's going on that day. Call 911 in the event of an emergency. Call security if you're on Shalom Park. We're already on site. We can respond a whole lot faster, right? So instead of 3 minutes, we can cut that response down to 30 seconds, okay? If you're off of Shalom Park, it's not an emergency, but you want to report suspicious activity or, anything like that, contact their non-emergency number, right? You can call 311 if you're inside city limits, or the number 704-336-7600. That's the non-emergency Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department phone number. And so we want you to see, if you see something, we want you to say something. But more importantly, I want you to do something. If it's a threat, if it's a security issue, I want you to run, hide, fight. I want you to get to a better location. I want you to call security. I want you to stop the individual and go, hey, sir, you look lost. Can I help you with something? Make that initial contact if you feel comfortable doing it. We want you to engage with our security personnel. We want you to do something, right? We don't want you just to sit back and let this person, plan or plot or do, their intended actions. And so, again, Shalom Park Security, that number is answered 24/7. After hours, it rings directly to my cell phone. So call that number 704-287-0527. You can text that number, if you just need to give a general update or something like that. If someone doesn't answer it, leave a voicemail. They might be in the middle of dealing with something, but they'll definitely call you back, or I'll call you back, or someone will get back in touch with you. Call security. If you're on Shalom Park, Temple Bethel, wherever you're at, call us. Like I said, we would prefer you to call us 100 times for the simplest things, right? We had I'll tell you a funny story and then I'll wrap it up. We had a security guard that lives right down the road from us. And so he would walk to work, and he shows up at 5 a.m. And so it's dark and he's wearing all black. And every morning at 5 a.m., we would get a phone call. There's a suspicious person walking down the road at Temple Israel. And, eventually we had to tell the person, hey, that's the security guard. So when you see that person, you don't necessarily have to call us, but I would prefer you call us if that's what makes you feel comfortable. Call us, right? Because you never know. It could be somebody else. So, if you can recognize the individual and it's the security guard, great. I've had people call security on me. When I first started, I was, wearing a suit and tie. I had a gun. And I had someone call and say, hey, there's a guy getting out of an orange Dodge Charger and he's got a gun on him. Okay, well, I appreciate that. That's our security director. He's coming into work. And so, things like that, they seem funny now, but that's the mindset that we want people to take. We want you to see something. We want you to say something. Talk to talk to a member of the Brotherhood. From what I've heard, there's a lot of law enforcement and security experience inside the Brotherhood itself. Talk to a staff member at Temple Bethel. If you can't get in contact with me or security, reach out to another staff member, Natalie, Andy, Rabbi Knight, whoever the case may be. They all have my direct numbers. But we want you to feel safe on Shalom Park. We want you to feel secure and feel comfortable, and to let you know that we are doing everything in our power to keep up with these threats nationally, locally. We're constantly evolving our security posture to match those threats and constantly upgrading security on Shalom Park. And we take it seriously enough that we're going to require staff members and everybody that we can possibly get in to these training sessions to train themselves not only to be safe on Shalom Park, but to be safe no matter where they're at. So
That's good. That's good, Mike.
I'll leave it up for a few minutes and then I'll let
We'll take some questions. Let me I'm going to pick, somebody put a question in the chat that I picked up on. They asked for the reference again to the video that you recommended. And the 3 words are run, hide, fight. And if you think about what happened in Collinsville, Texas, they were all SCN trained. That's the secure network. And if you have an opportunity to run, you see a shooter, you see a bad situation happening, run, then call for help. If you can get out of there, get out of there. Focus on your safety first. And if you can't get out, you're locked in, then hide. Then go in the room, close the door, close the lights, barricade the door, and be quiet. And if those 2 things don't work and you have to, then you can fight. But that's the point. And what the rabbi and the folks in Collinsville did is they were negotiating, they were being held hostage, and somehow this guy was distracted and they were able to run. They saved themselves. And that program, if you Google that, you'll see that this has been embraced by the Houston Police Department, many other police departments. And you can go to, I think you said, Mike, there is a video on the SCN network for run, hide, fight.
Just you can Google run, hide, fight, and it should probably just bring up the FBI's, I think it's the Department of Homeland Security now, but a less than 10-minute video on their YouTube channel on run, hide, fight. But Run, Hide, Fight's been around for a while now. It is now officially the adopted program that they use for active shooter training. In the past, it may have been called Avoid Barricade Encounter or Avoid Deter Detect or all kinds of different things, but it's all the same concept. Run, get to a safer location, hide, barricade yourself in, avoid the bad guy, and fight. Protect yourself at all costs. So, Google those 3 things, and there are probably going to be 100 different videos of things that you can watch. But if all else fails, you can go and watch the video produced by the Department of Homeland Security, for Run, Hide, Fight.
Right. When we were young, we all learned that if your clothes caught on fire was to drop and roll, right? Stop, drop, and roll. Well, that's what Run, Hide, and Fight is now. If you see yourself in a situation, run, get out of there, hide, and fight. I was impressed right after Colleyville. We started talking among ourselves at the Brotherhood about what could we do? And in Googling more about what happened at Colleyville, we found out that part of the training was done by this SCN group. And you should know that this is kind of like a private FBI funded by the Jewish community and other communities to track incidents. So even something that you think is not too serious, if you report it in the Mike in his weekly or daily call, when he speaks to SCN, it goes into a database, because with the incident of hate actions and hate crimes against Asians, against Black and brown people, and anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic, anti-Arab activity, the SCN is part of a national network tracking hate crimes. So part of what's happening behind the scenes, we're very interested in protecting our community, making it safe and secure, but you should know that we're plugged into a national network that keeps track of things. And even the smallest thing may be interesting to the SCN network. Did I say that about right, Mike?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And that data, even though it may be insignificant, even though it may not be an active shooter situation that you're reporting, it could just be a vehicle break-in. That data goes directly to the federal government, and that data is used to secure funding nationwide for security grant programs, like the grant that Shalom Park gets, to supplement, revenue and things like that for nonprofit organizations. That way they can, continue funding security programs and harden their facilities and get security cameras and train security guards and things like that. So, that data is extremely important for multitudes of reasons.
Matt, it's Howard. I've got some questions. Mike, if you want take your slides down, so there you are. That's great. Let me go through a few questions that come into me, and this is from the Nathansons. They want to know, I've noticed not noticed a large security presence at the Temple Bethel Religious School, nor training for religious school personnel. Is this in the works? So maybe you can answer that, and any of the Temple staff wants to chime in as well. But you give it a shot first. Thank you.
Yeah, so the training for the religious schools and security for the religious schools are all covered under Shalom Park, and they're covered under Temple Bethel, and so it is part of our training update. So the kind of the politics of Shalom Park security. Even though I work for the foundation and the temple uses us and things like that, we cannot force individuals to go through security training, right? We make them do it once, and that's part of our background check process and things like that. And so all this supplemental stuff that's coming down the pipe has been because of the requests from these organizations to receive this training. And so we're offering it to them free of charge. We're developing these programs and drills. Me and Natalie have been in close contact for a while now, and really have been emphasizing this training. We've talked about the religious schools, and so they will be included in all that. And then if they have specific needs, they know obviously that they can reach out to me, and we'll do individualized training for each religious school or each organization, no matter who it is. So yes, that is covered under our program.
Thanks, Mike. I actually have a question myself, and this is just my own observations based on my earlier introduction to the program tonight. When I come into the JCC, I do see security staff, but basically I walk in, the door opens, I say hello, I can get into the exercise area by showing my membership, but I'm in the building in that first instance versus, for example, when I go to Temple to do my volunteer business there, I have to ring the bell and then somebody lets me in. So those are two distinctly different ways of entering different parts of the park. How is that determined, and could you just address that based on my own experiences?
So it was determined long before I arrived at Shalom Park. So there's this a competing philosophy, right? We want to be an open arm to the Jewish community. We want to be welcoming to others and continue that philosophy. At the same time, we want to be safe and secure. So I think it was done well before I started. Temple Beth El had put the access control readers on their building and things like that, and which is great. And even during large events, they'll open that up, and when they open that up, we have security there, and that way we have an individual looking at the people coming in, right, as a physical deterrent. So usually those doors are locked during non-office hours, or when it's closed to the public, things like that, and so staff has access to get in. We just don't want anybody coming in and just having their way throughout the building, right? Opposite to Temple Beth El, that front entrance of the JCC, the main Shalom Park entrance, is an open environment, right? And traditionally in the past, all the doors were open and people could walk in and just go about their merry way. And so luckily, the one good thing that I will say that has come from COVID was this ability to shut all of our doors, and we had to create a mask screening, health screening entrance and things like that. And so we capitalized on that, and we put a security guard there. So while the doors are open to the public, we're letting individuals know that security sees you, right? We see you, bad guy, right? And you see us, right? And so the same thing it's the same concept, but a different concept at the temples, right? They can't just necessarily walk in, but when someone lets them in, they know that someone has seen them and that they have seen the other individual. So there are two different approaches to combating the same problem. I will say that there are some we have been discussing and will hopefully be implementing soon some different procedures for that front entrance of the JCC. We are looking into like turnstiles and bagel slicers down Main Street Hall to basically create a lobby that either you go into the JCC for membership and you have badge access, or you're a staff member, things like that, and you have badge access to walk further down the hall. So like I said, a lot of things are changing and in the process of changing, and we're constantly developing that stuff. So
Thank you.
Mike, you mentioned in your presentation quickly about de-escalation. Increasingly, we find ourselves in a world where I've seen this happen in a Walmart. Everybody's wearing a mask and one guy's not wearing a mask. So somebody politely asks him to please put on his mask. And he says, no, I don't need to put on my mask and you don't need me. And before you know it, it could escalate into a situation. And I think that part of the training about being vigilant and part of the training about run, hide, and fight is relevant to backing away from some situations rather than getting into it. Maybe you want to say something about that. And because I think that's a good advice to sometimes just back away.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's interesting dynamics, especially when it comes to masks. And so we've seen that on Shalom Park, ourselves. There are individuals who, when we had those protocols, that just refused outright. They did not want to wear a mask. And so, there's been some competing conflicts there, especially with individuals' right to health, privacy, and et cetera, and doing what they want to do with their own body. At the same time, there are ways that we can get around that. Obviously, I don't have to initiate the conflict, or I don't have to initiate that. I can call security, right? So instead of me doing it myself, I can call security and say, hey, this individual's not wearing a mask. It's your policy that individuals have to wear a mask. We get those phone calls, or we used to get those phone calls all the time. We're happy to take care of that problem for you. If you feel uncomfortable about a situation, right, call security. I would rather you let us do that. That's what we're paid for. That's our professional experience. And, we've been through that extensive training to do that. If individuals feel comfortable to do things like that, great. Once it gets past a certain point, easiest thing to do is back away, just back down. And then, if it's still a security concern, call law enforcement, call security, do whatever you can to do. There's great resources, and YouTube can be a great resource as well. Just like with the Run, Hide, Fight program, you can look at, verbal de-escalation, conflict resolution techniques, things like that. They call it verbal judo, right? Being able to talk somebody off a ledge. So really powerful things there. Sign up for a class. There's plenty of companies that do that privately. You can look at organizations that offer that particular stuff. There's been, I've considered going through as a trainer to do that kind of stuff. And, obviously there's a lot of stuff going on there to be able to offer that continuously on Shalom Park. Otherwise I'd just be training all the time. But, maybe one day down the road that there'll be opportunities for us to do that, for a larger public, and provide that as a resource. But like I said, there's plenty of resources out there. So recommendations again, just like Run, Hide, Fight, stop, get yourself away from that situation, back yourself down mentally, physically, right? And then if all else fails, call security, move away from the situation. Don't let them, bait you into a further rise, right?
Mike, I have a really interesting and very important question from Jeff Schwartz. Very straightforward. Are any of our security officers armed?
So I am, and our CMPD officers are. So right now, we are in the process of developing basically a business case for armed guards. There are some stipulations for armed guards on Shalom Park, primarily related to the legal issues surrounding schools. And so there are some regulations that have to be carefully walked there for that process. And so there's also liability insurance and training and all that fun stuff that goes in there. So, but last year we started the process for developing that case to at least arm a few of our guards to supplement CMPD. And so that's one of the reasons why we have Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department on site during all operating hours, is that they are a armed response to an armed threat, and they have instantaneous communication with other law enforcement officers, and so they can provide those two resources that right now that we're not equipped to do, until the point that we've made the decision park-wide, right? Not just the foundation, but the Federation, Temple Bethel, Temple Israel, things like that, to support and endorse, the armed guard process and the costs that would be incurred and things like that. So,
thank you, Matt. I have no more questions to me directly.
Well, we put this program together right in the aftermath of the Colleyville case, and then within 2 or 3 days of the Colleyville case unraveling and people kind of catching their breath, Mike was part of a team that did a full Zoom meeting with the director of the safety and security and the Charlotte FBI office and the Charlotte Meck Police Department and the DA and the representatives from the foundation and the Jewish Federation, Secure Community Network and the Anti-Defamation League, a cast of characters all talking about this. And we said, well, we don't know how things will develop, but let's turn this into what it is, just a 35-minute update from our director of security with an opportunity for questions. And so we hope that this has been helpful to you. If you join with me, this is kind of a Zoom thing I've learned. This is called a round of applause to Michael Philbeck. It would be very helpful, to kind of send him on the way. And unless anybody has any other questions, I'd like to turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Bishop Sheen, for the few reminders for what your Brotherhood has got planned for the weeks ahead. And a real thank you to Natalie for being the goddess of Zoom security calls and Zoom calls.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, a terrific job. I learned a lot in an economy of time. Great job. And always a thank you to our partners, Natalie, the whole TBE staff, Matt, terrific, and Howard, nice for fielding all those questions. Just a couple of reminders of things coming up. Tomorrow night, we're looking forward to seeing Brotherhood members at the first Thursday. It's the first Thursday of the month. We try and do an outing now that we're coming out of COVID. Every first Thursday, we will be at the Great Wall. That's right off 51 and Carmel Road. It's it's the most popular restaurant on Christmas Eve in Charlotte. So we look forward to seeing Brotherhood members there tomorrow night at 6:30. On March 20th, we will be for a more normalized Sunday brunch at Temple Bethel with a program on anti-Semitism. We have a great program in the works from our friends over at Queens College, and we'll be giving you more about that. I think it is already up on the website.
It is.
And you can find it on the calendar, and please register. You get a great brunch and a terrific program. That's Sunday, March 20th at 10 o'clock. And on Tuesday night, April 12th at 6:30, please join Rabbi Knight for the Men's Seder. We've been doing this now for, I think, more than 10 years. For the Men's Seder. We have a terrific turnout. It's very meaningful. It was interrupted by COVID, but we're back, and we hope to see all the men of Temple Bethel there. You can bring guests. Any questions, you can contact us at Brotherhood or anyone at the TBE staff. And once again, see something, say something, do something. 704-287-0527.
Bishop, should I put that in my phone so that I have it next time I need it?
Absolutely. Put it in your phone, put it in your shoe, wherever you can find it handy. You
Be
can
careful,
always use it. Thank you, everyone, for making this a very informative and enjoyable evening on a serious topic.
And prayers to our friends and fellow Jews and families in Ukraine.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Terrific
Thank you,
program.
Natalie.
Thank you.
Thank you.